Oh, hello. Today we are preparing to do a weekend readathon, which is Weekendween, and that is hosted by the lovely Olivia Reads a Latte Liv and Gabby from Gabby Reads. And basically it is a weekend-long readathon for Halloween. It starts on the 28th and goes through the 31st, so that means it is a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Now, unfortunately, Halloween is not a recognized holiday in my workplace, so I am going to have to work on Halloween and the Friday before. So I've been coming up with my strategy of how I think that this is gonna go, though I did impulsively go to my local indie to, pick up some spooky books, so I may end up incorporating some of these. They have such a good, like, witch, occult, mystical whatever nonfiction section, so I got a little tempted. So there's a couple of these that I might try to work in. We'll see. But my strategy is that on Friday and Monday, I'm going to be reading purposely very short things. So on Friday, I'm going to try to read these three. So I'm going to read the 6th and 7th bind up of Monstrous. This also addresses the challenge of reading a horror graphic novel or like a spooky graphic novel and reading a book with a monster on the cover, because the theme of this Weekendween is Monster Mash. So these are both relatively short, and so that's what we're gonna do Friday, along with the book I just picked up from my indie, which is Midwives and Nurses by Barbara Ehrenreich and Deidre English. This is a history of women healers, and this was like a feminist classic work from the 70s. So short little nonfiction, basically, let's keep it short on the workday. Then, going into Saturday, my strategy is going to be to read 2.5 bigger books. And I have picked a YA mystery thriller and a horror for both Saturday and Sunday to read. So on Saturday, the horror I want to read is The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher, which is sort of like fantasy portal horror. And then I'm going to read These Fleeting Shadows by Kate Alice Marshall, which is a YA spooky house inheritance situation. Oh my gosh, Hastings. You can be counted upon to always do some face rubbing on the tripod. Anyway, so these are gonna be for Saturday, and then Saturday going into Sunday, I'm expecting I will not finish one of these, but it will be like half one day, half the other. I will flip a coin to find out if I'm gonna read The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay, which is sort of like a vampire story, or Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney, which is an isolated close circle mystery. So, like, thriller situation. So we'll flip a coin to find out which I'm gonna read, which is one of the prompts. Then Sunday, I'll finish whichever one wins, and I will read The Haunting of Maddie Clare by Simone St. James, which is sort of like paranormal thriller / horror, and The Island by C.L. Taylor, which is another isolated close circle mystery, but it is YA. So that will be Sunday. And then to finish off, I've got these short ones for Monday. We've got The Teen Witch's Guide to Crystals, which I just picked up at my local indie. We've got Rizzio by Denise Mina and McGlue by Atessa Mafi. These are both historical mystery thriller. So if I read all of these, good God, okay, that's 5 plus 3, that would be 11 books in 4 days. Can I do it? Let's find out. But I feel like I've at least prepped my TBR, so wish me luck. Good morning, day 1. I reread the prompts last night. It's before work, so I'm gonna do a little reading, and when I reread the prompts, it looks like actually the first book is the one that is supposed to be decided via coin flip. So we've got Tales, Monstrous, Heads, Witches, Midwives, and Nurses. Okay, fell on the counter. Okay, Tales, I think? Yes, Tales it is. So that means Monstrous. So I'm gonna start reading that before work, see how far I can get. Okay, it is early afternoon, so I read before work and I read at my lunch break. I've already finished 2 of the things I wanted to finish. So, wrong copy of Monstrous, just a second. I feel like the light is a little weird here, sorry about that. Okay, so volume 6 of Monstrous, really good. It started a little slow, like we were getting some backstory stuff that was like heartbreaking, as Monstrous always is. We were finding out about Kippa's sister, who we didn't know about before now. And then I wanted to show you this cutie patootie. Look at this cute little Finn boy. Oh, I thought he was adorable. And then we have the big confrontation we've been waiting for a while with the aunt, and things just got juicy and progressed from there and ended on a hell of a cliffhanger. So I'm actually really glad that I put off reading this so that I can go straight into volume 7. So I read that first, and then I just finished reading Witches, Midwives, and Nurses on my lunch break. This was so interesting. I have a lot of thoughts about this. I guess maybe I'll talk more about this as like a surprise at the end of the month, because I would not have picked this up if it hadn't been in my bookshop, which is just like the joy of discovering a bookstore. It's so hard because I'm so in the bookish space, like that is such a huge part of my hobbying, that it's so hard for me to find books that I literally had no awareness of. And so like the idea of having that kind of discovery in a bookshop is just really thrilling. And I really like this. I do have some critiques about this in terms of like, this was written in the 70s and it's very much second wave feminism. And while it does include some intersectional considerations vis-a-vis class, it is really lacking in its analysis in terms of the racial component, especially because it's talking about the rise of obstetric, hard word for me, care in the US. And it doesn't mention that piece of shit doctor was who operated on all of those enslaved women and like basically tortured them to get a lot of the gynecological knowledge that we have today. Like that's not even mentioned. So if there was going to be a chapter about that, that clearly is something that should have been included. So I think that's my critique of it, is that it's missing on the racial kind of analysis or element of this. But I thought that this was really interesting and a really good companion to another book I read this month, which was Witches, Witch Hunting, and Women by Sylvia Frederici, which does include a little bit more of sort of what I would think of as a holistic analysis of the topic of witch hunting. But I think that this is a super interesting and relevant book for anybody who's interested in sort of like the history of medicine, the history of women and medicine, and also obviously like the history of witch hunting. It's also a very relevant book, I feel like, in the context of the fall of Roe v. Wade and abortion in the US this year. So this feels like a timely read and one that I would not have picked up if it hadn't randomly been at the bookshop. So enjoyed that. We're already 2 in. If I did this before work, I may be able to start on another book tonight after I finish the next thing of Monstrous. We'll play that by ear, we'll see. But so far so good. I have completed my TBR for the day. My Halloween shirt came in, so I'm going to wear that for the rest of the weekend. It's drying right now, but this is the graphic. Look at the little kitty with the pumpkin. It's like a astrology themed Halloween shirt, but I thought that was adorable. So yeah. Okay. So I got that. And I finished The Devourer, which is Monstrous Volume 7, which was also so impactful. Oh, hello, sweet girl. That's Marple. So impactful, and I feel like we definitely learned, like, I don't know. We're in a part of the series where it's like, oh, okay, like, all of these things are finally coming together that have been set up previously. So in terms of, like, the backstories of different characters, I feel like particularly Tuya / the Baroness definitely learned more there. And also just a lot about, I feel like this is a lot about like kind of your inner child and like a very literalized version of healing an inner child that felt kind of like part of what this book was trying to talk about, or this particular little batch of the bind-ups. Very emotional and great, and the art I felt like was particularly wonderful, but it's always wonderful. I mean, this is the one that's on the cover, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like we learned a lot in this. It was also very revealing in terms of the overall plot, and Kippa is really, I feel like, coming into her own and is kind of becoming our hero, which is just exciting to see because we all love Kippa, and I don't know, just seeing what a wonderful blend of toughness and tenderness she has as a little girl, a little fox girl, and her dedication to Micah. I don't know. It's just beautiful. So anyway, now I'm caught up and I gotta wait like a whole ass year for the next bind up. So I'm glad I got my fix now because it'll be a while. I am technically done for the day in terms of what I'd planned to read, but I'm gonna go ahead, I think, and get started on the Hollow Places tonight. And if I'm able to, that might, like if I'm already ahead and I can stay a little bit ahead, I might be able to slot in one more book, which would make it 12 books in 4 days, which would be pretty great. So anyway, wish me luck. I'm gonna go take a shower and curl up in bed with the Hollow Places. So yeah, day one, a success, I would say. Good morning. We're having a little bit of a slow start today, but it's all good. It's a Saturday, so I slept in a little bit. Dissociated watching some TikToks while I was waking up. Had some pets with the kitties, and I'm gonna go grab a coffee to help me get going, and then hopefully I'm gonna make some good progress on the Hollow Places. Okay, I have been reading all day long with, some breaks, but it's been a reading heavy day. And I did finish 2 books, which I'm going to talk to you about in a second. And now I'm getting ready for our Halloween live show for the Blades and Bodice Ripper book club. So forgive the echo because we're in my bathroom because I needed to get ready. But I also wanted to give you guys an update. So, I'm gonna be a good ghost. So that's what we're working on right now. Luckily, my pasty ass has like plenty of things that can pretty easily give you a very ghostly pallor. So I've got some cushion color correctors down as my base, and we're gonna go from there. I don't totally know what I'm doing. We're just kind of freeballing it and we'll see what happens. But anywho, so I read 2 books today, both of which I enjoyed. The first book I read was The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. So, Hollow Places, I do see why it's considered horror. It definitely has a lot of body horror, or like nature horror maybe is the way to think about it, which is stuff that I don't like and creeps me out. So, you know, she definitely got me there. I don't know if it totally worked for me as a horror novel. I think it works better for me when I think of it as a fantasy with like horrific elements. Kind of similar to maybe like what Monstrous is, which is, it is basically fantasy, but it has a lot of gross stuff in it, or sort of like intense stuff. So for that reason, you know, I think it goes to horror pretty well. Okay, I'm gonna try doing my base with these two color correctors, so we'll see how this goes. But we're gonna do green in the lowlights, and then some white in the highlights. Let's see if that works. So yes, ooh, okay, yeah, that's white. So yeah, it is horror. It's horrifying, but is it horror? I don't know. This gets into the whole debate of like, what is horror, and is horror even really its own genre, or is it just a vibe? I mean, I tend to think of it as its own genre, and I just basically, all that to say, I think that this is one that really kind of rides the line between being really horror versus more horrifying fantasy. So there's that. I think that if I think of it as horror, I don't like it as much because it does have kind of a comedic edge to it, which horror can have. It's definitely sort of like a comedic horror take, and I really like that. I like T. Kingfisher's tone. I really enjoyed that in Nettle and Bone, and I still really enjoyed it here. Like, there was parts that made me laugh out loud. I'm trying to remember, there was one early on. So the setup is our main character just got divorced, and she's back home living with her uncle at his creepy museum. And so she's kind of like licking her wounds, helping take care of her uncle because he's not well, and like cataloging everything in the museum. And she's stalking her ex online. It says, Mark was not appropriately miserable. He was posting platitudes about life being full of possibility and moving bravely into the unknown. Damn it, I can't believe I spent so much of my life on a man who would unironically post the line, "Today is a gift. That's why we call it a present." And in papyrus too. So that makes me laugh. Like, her humor works for me. And so the humor in this book worked for me. But I don't know, like, I think I had a harder time. I had an easier time with that sort of balance of humor and seriousness in Nettle and Bone than I did in this one. And I think where I landed by the end, because I actually really like the way it ends up playing out, because there's like this portal into this creepy world of willows and it's very creepy. But I liked where it went. I think it was just too long for my tastes. So I think that if it had been like a novella, I could have loved this. But I just think it was a little too long for what I'm looking for. So yeah, for that reason, I'm gonna end up giving it 3.5. But I really liked our main character. She's got, oh gosh, what's his name? Simon, is that the sidekick's name? Oh, there's Simons in both of these books. I just realized that, yeah. He's Simon too, okay. Yeah, so Simon, I liked. He's the barista next door who like falls into the portal world with her when she finds it. Shenanigans ensue. So I did like it. I think, you know, metaphorically it's about like overcoming past trauma, healing, trying to find a new lease on life, etc. So like this, I would give this like 3.5 stars. These Fleeting Shadows, I'll tell you, in the middle of this, so it started at like a 4 because I really liked the beginning of this. It's not really thriller. That's what I kind of thought it was going to be. This is horror, I would say. This is YA horror. So at the beginning, I really liked the setup. I liked where it was going. In the middle, to me, it was kind of lagging and feeling a little less special. So I was like, oh, maybe like a 3.5. I loved the ending of this. I would give this a 4. What I liked about it was that, I don't know how to talk about this without it being spoilery. Okay, the setup is basically our main character, Helen, comes from this family that has a creepy ass old house that her mom 10 years ago was like, fuck this, we are never coming back here. Cut to the patriarch, so her granddad, Helen's granddad, dies. So they go back for the funeral and they find out while they're at the funeral that Helen has been left the entire house and fortune with the condition that she stays on the property for a full year. And we find out very early on that Helen like sees things, both at the estate, but just like in life. Like she has no friends in real life because people say that she gives them bad dreams. She's got some ooky spooky powers. Also, she realizes that there's a cute witch who lives on the property named, I think, Bronwyn. Brioni, there you go, not Brony like My Little Pony. Brioni is the cute witch, and she is very aggressive towards Helen, also very drawn to her. So like it's like the YA love story of it all. But secrets ensue from there. Thematically, I love this, and I personally did not see the twist that was coming, particularly the twist with a specific character. Cannot get more detailed than that because it would certainly be spoilery. Let's just say that it goes there in a way that I thought was great, and not in a way you always get from a YA thriller, so, or I guess YA horror. So yeah, anyway, I would end up, because of that, giving this like a 4-star, I think, pretty solidly. I do think in the middle it lags a little bit, but for me, it really stuck the ending, so that kind of bumped it up for me. I'm gonna be glad that we are meeting on StreamYard, which means I will not be in 4K, so you will not hopefully be able to see the flaws in doing myself clown lung in this particular look, though I do successfully, I think, have like a creepy white-green cast to my skin, which is what I was going for. Anyway, okay, so those are the 2 books I read today, and now I'm gonna finish getting ready. I'm gonna do the live show, and then I probably won't read more today, which was not in plan. That means I'm like half a book behind, but I don't know, that's fine. We'll see what happens. We'll see what we can do tomorrow if we can catch up, and if not, again, pretty ambitious reading plan, so I'm not gonna get too bent out of shape if I can't keep on pace, so to speak. Anyway, let's finish getting ready, shall we? Well, I'm doing this while I'm heating up my lunch, but I just realized if you're right over the microwave, the noise might be a little too much. Okay, sorry, we'll come over here. So I finished the Paw Bears Club. I finished it. I probably should have DNF'd it. Yeah, this is just a disappointment. So I will say, what I didn't realize when I first saw this advertised, that it had like a book within a book or like interstitial stuff, which I really like, which is why I think at the last minute I pre-ordered it. I'm just conflicted because I think if I hadn't been expecting something more in the realm of spookiness or horror, I probably could have liked this a little bit better. But I guess I just want to tell people, don't expect something very spooky. Like, the way I would describe this is if Garden State was a book and had self-awareness of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl elements, and they were trying to find or like prove somebody was a vampire. That's kind of the vibe. It's very much about friendship and illness and addiction, and it's a pretty good version of that, but that's just not what I thought I was getting. I will say I really, really love the ending. The ending bought it back for me. I was like, this is gonna give this a 2-star. I'm between a 2.5 and a 3 now because I liked the ending so much. So I don't know. I think that this is an expectation. Like in my head, I'm like, I should give this 3 stars because, you know, because it's not the worst. It's not badly written. It's not a bad project. It's just not what I was expecting. But enjoyment-wise, it's definitely a 2.5. So yeah, I liked things in this. I don't think it's a bad book. It's just not what I wanted. You should know that before you pick it up. So good news is it was actually pretty easy to get through. Like I blazed through this morning, not a problem, in a couple of hours. So that was good. Which means we're back on track, I think, timing-wise. And I'm gonna do a palette cleanse with The Island by C.L. Taylor because C.L. Taylor is an author I know I like, and this is just like my favorite trope, which is an isolated close circle mystery, 7 days, 6 teenagers, 1 deadly secret. Who will escape the island? So this is like, they're all supposed to be getting together on a remote tropical island, but when their guide dies of a stroke, leaving them stranded, the trip of a lifetime turns into a nightmare because someone on the island knows each of the group's worst fears, and one by one they're becoming a reality. So I think that sounds really fun. Even if it's not amazing, I should have like fun, which can't be too mad if you come out of a book having fun. So anyway, that's up next. I'm gonna eat my reheated pad thai. Very mild, because that's all my tummy can handle these days. And we'll keep on chugging along here. Okay, I read 3 books in one day, and I will confess that I am running out of reading speed. So I think it was a good plan from past Mara to assume that tomorrow would be shorter, little amuse-bouches of books, basically. But I read these 3 books today. The 2 I've not talked to you guys about yet are The Island by C.L. Taylor, which I read second, and The Haunting of Maddie Clare, which I read third. So, The Island by C.L. Taylor is YA isolated closed circle mystery. Basically, this group of teenagers, they're all like roughly the same age as in within 1 week of each other because their parents were all in sort of like a prenatal class together, and they really bonded, and they go on vacation together every year. So they all know each other. Our point of view character, we know something bad happened to her about a year ago and like made her kind of awkward within the group. I will say, I actually realized I probably have similar thoughts about both of these, which is, this is just my kind of book. I think that there are problems with this book, and I think if you don't just love this kind of mystery the way I do, or this kind of thriller the way I do, you won't love it, because I think the ending is less than satisfying. But it gave me, up until that point, the trope that I like so much in a pretty effective way. It's a super quick read. You know, it feels like it's a true YA, like it's actually aimed at young adults. And I'm not gonna argue this is the highest quality version of one of these mysteries I've read, but I had such a good time with it. So I'm giving it 4 stars because I really like the characters. I liked the setup, and I didn't love the ending, but I can like respect it as a choice. But I think other people will not like it. So I don't necessarily recommend this book, but I really liked it. So there you go. Then The Haunting of Maddie Clare. I am shocked that this is so popular because like this is such a Mara book. I really, really enjoyed it. And in my heart, I'm like, it's a 3.5 to 4 star quality wise, but it's just my kind of book. So I think I'm gonna give it 4.5 because I mean, when I talk about a book that is my thing, It's a book with a murder mystery plot or a mystery plot of some kind with speculative elements and a strong romance primary or subplot. And that's what this is. This is basically a true ghost story. I liked that we get right to the ghosting almost immediately off the bat. I love Simone St. James's writing style. I am so surprised other people like this book, because I think that this is a pretty well-loved book. I've seen a lot of people recommend it, and it's one that I've always meant to get to and just hadn't made time for it. And I'm really glad I did, because I wasn't sure how I would do with her sort of more historical kind of paranormal mystery thrillers. And I really like this. I would call this horror, I guess, like a romantic horror. I'm not sure if that's a thing, but this is kind of what this is, and it's a thing for me. And I'm so surprised people really love this as much as I ended up. So I think I am gonna give this a 4.5 star, even though I'm not gonna tell you that I think this is the best book I've ever read. It's just my kind of book. And it surprised me how much it was my kind of book. So yeah, both of these were pretty big successes, I would say. Of what I've read so far, definitely this is the best of the readathon so far, and this is definitely in the top few. So we started the day rough with a book I did not really like, but we ended it with 2 books I did really like. And now we are on Hallows Eve, and I gotta go to work tomorrow, so I'm gonna go to bed. But tomorrow we'll see if we can finish off a couple of shorter ones, slot those in, and yeah, mostly we're still on pace, we're still on track. We'll wrap it up tomorrow. Okay, so I have finished 2 books today, both of which were very short, as was the plan. So before work, I read Rizzio by Denise Mina. This is really good. It's more historical lit fic, I would say, than really feeling like a suspense or a mystery, which was kind of what I was wanting from it. But it's very well written, so props there. I just don't know that this gave me what I was looking for, and I think it's a good version of what it is, but not necessarily that memorable to me. I also did like the Teen Witch's Guide to Crystals, because I just was looking for an accessible reference on, what different crystals are supposed to be meaning, whatever. I think it does a good job of that. I will say I have 2 issues with this. One is, while there is a disclaimer on the front page saying the ideas and suggestions in this book are not intended to be a substitute for conventional medical help, always consult your doctor, whatever. Sorry, I also know that the lighting in this is weird because of where this is coming in. So it does have that disclaimer, but then it goes on to at multiple points give specific medical suggestions of how to use the crystals and make specific scientific claims about energy that I think are not demonstrable and probably shouldn't tell teenagers that. I also think that there were times where it was a little vague about the history of how different crystals were used. So I really liked it when it was specifically calling out this is the national crystal of Scotland and this was a traditional use for it there. When it just sort of gets a little vague on that in terms of people in the past, I think that's less helpful. So I'd give this 3 stars. It did mostly what I wanted it to do, but I would warn, I don't know that I would recommend this because I just don't want someone to not go to the doctor or to get, I don't know, some questionable scientific information from this. But it served my purpose as well in terms of giving me a little checklist of, some crystals to put around the house. So yeah, I've only got 1 left on my TBR. It's McGlue by Atessa Mafi. It's super short, so that I will read after work. Okay. So I was settling in trying to get some footage of me reading this, but as I think you saw, I quickly realized that I'm not gonna finish this because, I had been warned when I bought this from my local bookstore. She was like, just so you know, protagonist in this is vile. And I was like, that's fine. Like, I don't need my protagonist to be likable. I'm good. He's just gross and nasty, and I don't want to read anything else from him. Not because this is a bad book. It's clearly very well written to elicit such a strong response from me, but for my pleasure reading, I just don't want to read this. So, done early. Woohoo. So yeah, we've gotten through my whole TBR. If I were going to force rank them, this would be the order I would put them in. Bottom three, really bottom two. McGlue, because I DNF'd it, and the Pallbearers Club just wasn't what I was hoping it was gonna be. But in terms of my top three, I would say probably, like, this is the order: Haunting of Maddie Claire, These Fleeting Shadows, and The Island. I will say I ended up having a lot more horror and a lot more sort of literary type fiction in this than I was expecting. But it's interesting that the two YA picks were the ones at the very top. But I had, of my 11 books, I gave 6 of them 4 or 4.5 stars. That's very good. Monstrous is always a mainstay. This was a surprise, but very interesting. Monstrous is always great. So I enjoyed those. The only true, like, mystery I ended up reading, well, not even, a mystery thriller really, was The Island. Everything else was pretty horror-based. I would call both of these horror thriller or horror mystery. So they are horror because they definitely have paranormal elements to them that are a part of, like, being spooky scary. Like, they both, I think, have an intent to scare, which is kind of how I think about horror, is like an intent to scare, an intent to gross you out, something like that. I think these both have that, but they also definitely have, this one even more so, like there's a mystery you're trying to solve along with it. So it kind of puts it sort of in the realm of a mystery, kind of on the border. But yeah, these would be probably the two I would most recommend coming out of this. This mostly because it's so well received. I'm shocked so many people like this. Like I said, when I was reading it, I was like, really? Interesting. I'm surprised y'all like this as much as I did. And then I think that this was just a really fun version of a YA horror mystery kind of deal. Like, this was fun, good. The Island I also really enjoyed, but I wouldn't recommend it widely. It just happens to kind of fit what I enjoy. So yeah. Anyway, that was 4 intense days of reading, guys. Luckily, my friend Alexa Dunn is in town tomorrow night, so I'm gonna go see her, so I'll have a night off from reading, because I think I need it. I've been reading so much. Believe it or not, since I DNF'd McGlue, I am thinking maybe I'm gonna grab, like, oh yeah, Ruby Dixon has a new book out as of today called When She's Pregnant, so maybe I'll read that. But anyway, thank you to Liv and to Gabby for creating Weekendween, because this was very productive for me and I enjoyed it. It was nice to get a good amount of spooky scariness at the end of October. I am filming this on Halloween, so happy Halloween. So yeah, anyway, I'm rambling now. I'll just say goodbye. Let me know if you guys participated in Weekendween or if you read anything kind of spooky for Halloween. Let me know that in the comments. Let me know what you thought about any of the books we read. And yeah, I think that will do it for me. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below, and I think that that will do it. I hope you're having an absolutely lovely day today, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye!